Assalamu alaikum viewers. I'm Mirov. I'm from International Islamic School. I have a presentation on forest and wildlife resources, class 10th, chapter number 2, geography. Let us start the chapter. The introductory part of this chapter will be flora and fauna in Indian biodiversity. Okay. Alhamdulillah Ta'ala, Earth has been bestowed with the immense biodiversity by Almighty Allah. We humans, along with all living other organisms, form a complex web in which we live in because we depend on each other. So we make a complex web of ecological systems and we depend on each other. The major role played in this ecological system is the role of forests, because forests play a key role in maintaining the ecological system because they are primary producers on which all living beings depend upon. Our famous Sufi saint Alamdari Kashmir alayhi rahmah has once said, "Anposhi tele yelvan posh." India is one of the world's richest countries in terms of its vast array of biological diversity. It has nearly 8% of total number of species found in the world. As per the statistical report, there are 90,000 species of fauna, 74,000 species of flora, and 15,000 flowering plants, 2,000 species of birds. In India, 10% of flora and 20% of mammals are threatened list. That means they are on endangered list. So forest cover of India is 78.29 million hectares, which becomes 23.81% of total geographical area. One of the grave topics in this chapter is Asiatic cheetah. Where do they live? Because cheetahs are most commonly considered or mistakenly taken as leopards, but leopards and cheetahs are different two animal species of cat family. The cheetah is fastest animal on earth. It is approximately its speed limit is 112 kilometers per hour. Its scientific name is Acinonyx gigantus. It belongs to a cat family. It has dark patches from nose to eyes. It is tall in size, light in weight. It was once living in Asiatic subcontinent, but nowadays we don't find it because long back dated 1952, it was declared as extinct. Another species is from flora, that is Himalayan yew, a medicinal plant which is found in Himachal Pradesh and Andhra Pradesh. Actually, this herb is used for anti-cancer drug. It has a chemical compound found in it called Taxol, which is obtained from it. But over-exploitation and overgrazing had affected the system of this Himalayan yew, and it is now on endangered, declared as an endangered species. The next topic in this chapter will be vanishing forests with species. In India, we know already forest and tree cover of India is 79.42 million hectares. Actually, this has been increased from last 5 to 10 years because of global warming issues. Many countries have taken initiative of increasing their forest cover, so which is now becoming the 24.16% of total geographical land area, under which only dense forests share the proportion of 12.2%. Open forests are 9.14% and mangrove forest is 0.14%. It is reported by the State of Forest Report 2015. Under this report, there has been mentioned some of the species. Number one is normal species. Normal species of population are considered to be the normal for their survival. They have no effect of any kind of extinction or being endangered, such as cattle, saw, pine, rodents, etc. Another type of species, endangered species. These species are those which are in danger of extinction. So their survival of such species is very difficult due to the negative factors found in their surroundings. Okay. For example, black buck in India, crocodile, and Indian wild horse. They are declared to be endangered species like hongul in Kashmir. Vulnerable forest species. These are species those whose population has been declined to levels from where it can be moved to endangered category. So they may be endangered in near future if negative factors continue to operate. Examples are blue sheep, Asiatic elephant, Gangetic dolphin, etc. Fourth category is rare species. These are those species population of species they may move into the endangered or vulnerable category if negative factors affecting them continue to be operate. So the examples are Himalayan brown bear, wild Asiatic buffalo, and desert fox and hornbill. Fifth category of these species is endemic species. These species which are only found in some particular areas, usually isolated by the natural and geographical barriers. Examples are Andaman teal, Nicobar pigeon, Andaman wild pig, Mithun in Arunachal Pradesh. These are those species which are found separated from the mainland areas. Next category, sixth category is extinct species. These are those species which are not found after the searches of known likely areas where they may occur. A species may be extinct from a local area or a region, country, or a continent, or from entire Earth. Example: Asiatic cheetah, already discussed, and pink-head duck, that has been declared extinct. The next topic will be colonial forest policy because India was once under the Britishers, so this colonial forest policy proved to be disastrous, and later on they took necessary steps to uh, change again their forest policies in order to protect the forests. Number one, in this colonial forest policy, resources obtaining directly and indirectly from the forest and wildlife. Before we know, in history class 8th, they were excessively using the resources like forest resources that they obtained from the tribal areas. Even they cleared a lot of forests for the jhum cultivation as well. This resulted in the influencing wildlife and forest area. Second, in colonial period, the expansion of railways, agriculture, commercial, scientific forestry, and mining also affected the mainland forest cover of India. Third, after the independence, expansion of agriculture increased due to the increase in the population. Fourth, plantation. Single commercially valuable species was extensively planted in order to increase the productivity of that uh, single plantation product. So next is large scale development projects like industries, roads, railways, real estate, etc. Okay. Sixth is mining. Mining may be defined as the extraction of natural resources from earth. Grazing. Grazing is another process which affects the forests by exploiting the forest cover. Fuel, like wood collection in the forest areas. That is also one of the negative aspects of forest cover. Ninth, industrialization and urbanization. Due to the increase in the industrial revolution that reached from Britain to India, it resulted in the urbanization, which in turn affected the forests. Tenth is hunting and poaching. Hunting has now been banned, most probably because it affects the ecological balance of certain kind of species, animal species, bird species, and aquatic animals as well. 11th point is overexploitation of these natural resources or forested resources. 12th point is environmental pollution, which affects the forests, poisoning and forest fires. Okay, or the use of chemical fertilizers. 14th is unequal access of these natural resources. Or 15th, inequitable consumption of the resources and differentiate sharing of the responsibility for environmental well-being, where there are consumption on the basis of differential sharing. Okay, so 16th point is overpopulation that resulted in the um, destruction of the forest cover. Next, the next topic is social effect of resources depletion. At homes, at domestic level, women bear the major responsibility of collection of fuel, wood, fodder, water, and other basic substances needed at home, especially in urban and tribal areas. As these resources are depleted, the drudgery of the women increase, and sometimes they have to walk from the 10 kilometer to collect these materials or these resources. So this increased their task, but as well as it put a load on negative aspect on the forest cover of the said place. Okay, this causes a serious health problems for women as well. Negligence at home and children because of the increased hours of work and often has a serious social um, implications. The next point, that is indirect impact of the degradation, such as severe drought or we say deforestation or induced floods, etc. Uh, Poverty is also another factor in case direct outcomes of environmental destruction, the destruction of forests and wildlife, just as a biological issue. So the biological loss is strongly correlated with the loss of cultural diversity, such as losses have increasingly marginalized and improvised many indigenous and other forests, and depending upon the community who directly depend on it. We know the components of the forests and wildlife at that particular place where these tribal people live. They need food, they need to drink water and medicine, and their own cultural and spiritual aspect different from the man. Now comes the, why do we need to conserve our forests and wildlife? Is there any need to conserve them? If needed, then why? What are the steps taken by the government? Let us start. The conservation preserves the ecological diversity and our life system. Especially, there are three things that are under the consideration. Number one is water, number two is air, and number three is soil. It also preserves the genetic diversity. We discussed that if it also preserves the genetic diversity of plants and animals for better growth of species and breeding. Conservation of forest and wildlife in India is a grave issue because we know the India is second largest population in the world, and Indian Wildlife Protection Act was implemented in 1972. The main aim of this act was to protect and remaining population of the certain endangered species by banning hunting and giving legal protection of their habitats. Okay, restricting the trade in wildlife. Central, as many central protection is their habitat and restricting the trade. So many state governments established the national parks and wildlife sanctuaries in their own states in order to protect these species, flora and fauna. Central government has also announced the several projects for the protecting special animals which are gravely threatened, including the tiger. That is a one of the endangered species of Indian subcontinent, Asiatic tiger. Let's move on. The next topic is government's categorization of forests. After the Forests Wildlife Act, in order to preserve and conserve these forests, the government has categorized forests into three main types. Number one is reserved forest. What is a reserved forest? It is more than a half of total forest land has been declared reserved forest because reserved forests are regarded as the most valuable as far as the conservation of forests and wildlife resources are concerned. So these are reserved, and there is no any um a chance of making illegal or misuse of these resources where the forests are being declared reserved forests. Next category is protected forests. Almost one third of the total forest area is protected forest as declared by the forest department. Already we discussed that half of the total forest is reserved, and here we discussed one third of the total forest area is protected. It has been declared by the forest department, and forest land are protected from any further depletion. The third category is uncolossed forests, or we can say these are uh, those forests where some rules has been made in order to prevent and protect the resources of forest of further depletion, because there is movement of communities allowed, grazing is allowed, also you can use the resources of these areas. That is why these forests come in unclassified forests. And we know wastelands belonging to both government and private individuals and communities are also included in unclassified forests. We discussed in the previous chapter that Project Tiger was an initiative by the Indian government to protect the tiger of India. We know it has been well publicized project in the world. It was launched in 1973 in order to save it from extinction as well as means of preserving the biotypes of the sizable magnitude of the tiger. Okay, The initiatives like Jim Corbett National Park that was established in Uttarakhand in order to protect this tiger from being getting extinct. Another is Sundarbans National Park in West Bengal, and the third one is Bandhavgarh National Park in Madhya Pradesh. And there are a lot more other national parks and sanctuaries that were established by the Indian government. So here we discussed only three. New trends in conservation policy, community and conservation. What are the newly implemented trends? Here we discuss first one, increase biodiversity. The conservation projects are now focusing on the biodiversity rather than on a few of its components because there is now a more intensive search for different conservation measures. Due to the increasingly, even insects are begging to find a place in conservation planning. So, notification under the Wildlife Act 1980 and the Wildlife Act 1986, several hundred butterflies, moths, beetles, and other dragonflies have been declared and added to the list of protected species in India. In 1991, the first time plants were also added to the list of starting with the six species to get preserved and conserved. In some areas of India, local communities are struggling to conserve these habitats, along with the government officials actually recognize that only with this will secure their own long-term livelihood. Otherwise, they have to leave the said spot or said location. Next one is in India, Sariskar Tiger Reserve, Rajasthan villagers have fought against mining by citing the Wildlife Protection Act. So they have been protected from these things. In many areas, villagers themselves are protecting habitats and explicitly rejecting the government involvement. So hand in hand, people play a vital role in protecting these areas. Especially here, we are discussing about the tiger reserves, and the people are coming forward. Government is also taking initiatives in order to protect and conserve them. So the inhabitants of the five villages in the Alwar district of Rajasthan have declared 1,200 hectares of forest as a Bairodev Dakao, that is sanctuary, declaring their own set of rules and regulations which do not allow hunting. So they have themselves taken an initiative to protect them and have declared 1,200 hectares of land for forest cover and are protecting the wildlife against any outside encroachment. That is a great step. Continuing this topic, let us discuss in some areas in India, some tribals and people worship these things that are naturally found surrounding them. It is the age of tribal belief based on the premises that all the creations of nature have to be protected. Such beliefs have preserved the several virgin forests in pristine from called the sacred groves in the forests of god and goddesses. These patches of forests are part of the large forests have been left untouched by the local people, and any other interference with them is totally banned. Next is Mundas. Already we had discussed it in class 8, Mundas. The Santhals, still found in India. Even there is a tribe that has recently been found on the Andaman Nicobar Islands called Sentinels. They are untouched, and the government has taken the initiative not to go and disturb their habitat. They are left apart and isolated. In India, there's a place called Chotanagpur region. The people worship the mahua, that is Basia latifolia plant, and Kadamba, that is scientific name is Athocapalus Kodamba. These are some kind of species of trees found in these areas like Chotanagpur. People worship them, and the tribals of Orissa and Bihar worship the tamarind trees. Tamarindus indica is scientific name of this tamarind tree we use in vegetables. Also, these tamarind also a fruit that is called mango, the king of fruits, that has also been worshipped. Scientific name is uh, Mangifera indica. These trees has been used during the weddings of these tribal areas to many of us people, and the banyan trees are also considered to be sacred in Hindu customs. Okay. Indian society comprises of several cultures, each of with its own set of traditions. Methods in conserving the nature and creation of sacred qualities are often ascribed to sibling mountains, peaks, plants, and animals which are closely protected. Actually, they have their faith and sentiments with these things. By that, it becomes obvious for the government to protect these kind of things. Okay, we know these people are very much conservative in terms of their protection. They are the devotees of these things. Even we discuss here the Bishnol village of Rajasthan, the herds of black bucks that is called chinkara and nilgai peacocks that are being considered to be sacred animals. Continuing the topic, a famous movement was seen in Himalayas. Actually, what this Chipko movement meant for had not only successfully resisted the deforestation in several areas, but also shown that the community afforestation with the indigenous species can be enormously successful. This was a very famous movement led by the people of that particular tribe in order to protect their forests and habitat. Farmers and citizens groups like Beej Bachao Andolan in Tehri, Naudania have shown that the adequate levels of diversity crop production without the use of synthetic chemicals possible and economically viable. So that is why they started a Andolan or a movement, Beej Bachao Andolan. In India, Joint Forest Management (JFM) program furnishes a good example of involving the local communities and management for the restoration of the degraded forests. And the program has been in a formal existence since 1988, when the state of Orissa passed the first resolution for the joint forest management. What does this joint forest management that time meant for them? It depends on the formation of the local village institutions that undertake the protection activities mostly on degraded forest land managed by the forest department. In return, the members of these communities are entitled by the intermediary benefits like non-timber forests produce and share in the timber harvest by successful protection. That is another type of step taken by the Odisha government called JFM. Lastly, we discuss the clear lesson from the dynamics of both environmental destruction and the reconstruction in India is that local communities everywhere have to be involved in some kind of natural resource management. But there is still a long way to go before social communities are at the center stage in decision making, except only those economic and developmental activities that are people centric and environmental friendly and economically rewarding. So they must be uh, promoted and propagated as well. This was all about this chapter. Jazakallah khair for watching. Hope you enjoy while learning. Send your feedback to improve us. Stay blessed. Allah Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum.